Winter brings a harsh beauty to the mountains of North Wales. Snowdonia. For the local wildlife, large and small, times are getting hard. As the stores of food and water in the high hills are locked in by frosts, it's time to move. Down to the valleys where the living is easier. Down to the farm with its promise of warmth and shelter and food. The farm is 1,000 acres of mixed land, valley and hill, 5 miles from the sea. It's called Bronhaelog. Bronhaelog means sunny bank. The sheep are brought down from the frozen hills at this time of year to the shelter of farm buildings. It seems a good idea to follow them. Polecats are not really cats at all. They're masked members of the weasel family, closely related to the ferret, in fact. A century or so ago, they were found throughout most of Britain, but Wales is now almost the only place you'll find them. The farm animals that live here have shelter from the cold and regular deliveries of food. To the Jill, the female polecat, searching for a safe haven for the winter, it's a place worth investigating. There is danger here. The polecat has a distinctive and far-reaching smell. A barn full of great, warm bodies is a pleasing sight on a winter's evening. Bleak midwinter, even at Sunny Bank, is a cheerless time. But every day, in the depths of winter, silage, the grass that was cut when spring warmed these fields, is brought out to feed the stock. It's stored under cover to keep it succulent and sweet. And so for the gill, as for the other wildlife closing in on the farm this season, it's worth putting up with the unfamiliar noises and smells for the sake of security and the warmth. Even though their range is from sea level to 3,000 feet, polecats are very susceptible to cold weather. She's glad to find farm buildings for the winter. Polecats in the countryside can dig their own holes, though more often they make use of holes in trees or abandoned rabbit burrows. Here she's chosen the big barn with the straw bales, where it's quiet. Polecats are wary of people, but here she may be left alone to face whatever the winter brings. The snow has gone, and on clear, calm days the sheep exercise themselves in the open fields. But the grass is still frosty, and food is still brought out to them. The sheep have come to expect this, and so have the jackdaws. Crows, rooks and jackdaws flock in for the feast, with a few magpies tagging along. Jackdaws are great opportunists. They're found in every county in Britain and Ireland, some 500,000 pairs in all. They feed both on grain and weed seeds and on the invertebrates found in pastures. And they're certainly partial to animal fodder. Here they can even warm their feet between meals. The Jill goes about her own housekeeping. A visitor approaches. A hob, a male polecat. Polecats are solitary outside the breeding season, but each year, in early spring, the male goes in search of a mate. He's picked up her scent now and follows it into the straw barn. The Jill must be in season before she'll accept the hob. The rain that falls on the farm is swelled by heavier falls on the mountains nearby. So many trees have been felled on the mountain slopes that surface water now runs unchecked out into the valley, and Sunnybank, for a time, becomes a lake. Six weeks after mating, the Jill has given birth to her litter. Soon after birth, they had white, silky coats, but now, at about 3 weeks old, they have fluffy grey fur, halfway to the adult coloration. At this stage, the male and female kits are the same size. The males will soon be noticeably larger, and their eyes are still closed. A single litter is born each year. This one is a good-sized family of 10 babies. Polecats are used to dragging heavy prey like rabbits and hares, and the Jill's neck muscles are powerful. The kits, when gripped by the back of the neck, instinctively relax. Heaps of old tyres are a common sight around today's farms. They aren't usually attempts at artistic expression by the farmer, entries for the Royal Academy's exhibition of outdoor sculpture. This is where silage is stored, the juicy fodder on which livestock are fed. To the birds that live here and have learned its secrets, this is a place rich with promise. When the ritual begins of the lifting of the tyres, the birds start to gather, expectantly. In the darkness, under the polythene, millions of microbes have spent the winter breaking down the fibrous grass into sickly, sweet-smelling and nutritious silage. Here lies a feast of invertebrates: fly larvae, springtails, woodlice and worms. They congregate at the edge of the heap under the plastic covering. When it's lifted off, a banquet is exposed. the maternity ward. In the cold, wet springs of the Welsh mountains, it's safer to lamb under cover. Most births are uncomplicated, and the ewe is best left to get on with it. Once the head and shoulders are out, the rest is easy. Cleaning up the lamb at birth is important. The ewe not only licks away the mucus, she stimulates the lamb with her tongue, which helps it get onto its feet. And she identifies its smell so that she can recognize and feed it later when they're back in the flock. Meanwhile, the kits are doing what they're best at, sleeping. They're about 6 weeks old now, and their eyes, when they get around to waking up, are just starting to open. They still feed mainly on their mother's milk, but they've already started to lick the bits of meat that she brings back to the nest. Soon they'll be starting to eat it. The hob plays no part in providing for the family. He's taken off to the wilds and won't be seen again. Fox cubs are already starting to be independent. They're weaned now, and at this stage the vixen will often kennel underground during the day and leave the cubs to a few hours of mock combat on their own. The lambing season is a good time of year for scavenging, one of the first opportunities the cubs get to seek out substantial food for themselves. Magpies signal the presence of a dead sheep, probably left behind when the flocks were taken in for the winter and a victim of disease or lambing problems. Like vultures on the plains of Africa, magpies spot the carrion and the foxes follow. Although foxes and birds seem to be rivals over the carcass, they operate as partners. The magpies help to find it. The foxes open up the body wall and make the softer parts available. Soon after they're born, the lambs are put out in paddocks close to the farm. The droppings from suckling lambs are highly nutritious, rich with their mother's milk. Rooks normally use their powerful bills to probe for worms and leather jackets, but here they don't need to. The spilt grain lies on the surface. A crow checks. Is it carrion or is it lamb? At this time of year, female rooks are on the nest. These are the competitive males. Inside the straw barn, the junior polecats have been moved to another nest site. The Jill tends to move house regularly if she feels threatened, and the farm dogs have been romping and sniffing around among the bales. The pads on their feet are thick and the claws heavy. But teeth will be more important than claws when hunting their prey. They have good memories and learn quickly. They'll hunt mainly by smell, and they must now begin to learn the smells of their prey from the food their mother brings back to the nest. But education can be exhausting. On the hills above the farm, a soaring buzzard spots a meal. When the foxes have had their fill of the carcass, there's still plenty for others. Other carrion eaters have to wait their turn. As summer approaches, the first cut of silage is taken. Another bonus for wildlife the farm provides is the vast community of insects that live and breed here in the fields. Cutting the grass casts millions of them into the air and attracts many birds to the farm, including one species whose population dropped dramatically in recent years, but now seems to be staging a recovery. Sand martins are amongst the earliest summer migrants. In a good nest site like this, they can have 2 broods during the summer, harvesting a rich supply of insects on the wing as they fly over the meadows. The action of the giant cutter releases a minestrone soup of species, including many that would have been lurking safely on the grass stems, aphids and spiders, weevils and bugs, and the occasional ladybird. When the machines arrive back in the farmyard, they have a rich coating of edibles for the birds, both the seed and the insect eaters. The silage cutter brings home its harvest twice a year. But there is a permanent, dependable storehouse of supplies here, the dung heap. And the grey wagtail, a bird of swift, rocky hill streams and waterfalls, has deserted them and been drawn here by the prospect of a richer and more varied supply of food. There are few more desirable features to a grey wagtail's home than a dung heap on the doorstep. They're making their nest in a ventilation slit in the barn wall. The kits have almost developed the full polecat mask now, and a full set of teeth. This black and white mask may originally have served as a warning to predators, similar to the badgers. But the polecat's only predators now are dogs and man. Through most of its history, the polecat has had a reputation as a wanton killer of poultry and other stock. Moreover, their pelts used to be highly prized and were sometimes used to adorn civic robes. So, hunted for fur and hunted for sport, it's not surprising that by 1915, polecats had been reduced to a small population around Aberystwyth. But recently, they've made a recovery. They've spread out over the Welsh border into the marches, and their population is half as large again as it was 20 years ago. This night, these kits are safe, left snug in the barn whilst their mother goes hunting. Her eyesight isn't good. She relies mainly on hearing and smell, but she can detect moving objects. Freshwater eels choose a time of rain to make the land crossing between streams. Though eels are undoubtedly fish, they can survive outside water for up to 48 hours, so long as they stay moist. Polecats are not at all adapted to water, but they are partial to eels. There's an old shepherd's saying, sheep shouldn't hear the church bells twice in the same pasture. As the church bells are rung every Sunday, this means you should move sheep every week to rest the grass and reduce the build-up of parasites. By midsummer, the bright spring grass of the valley bottoms has darkened to a deeper, lusher green. But on the high, well-drained slopes, a time of hot sun can bake the gorse till it's tinder dry. At 12 weeks old, the kits are smaller editions of their mother. They've begun to set out on sorties alone, and they already show that curiosity and joy in exploring that will stay with them all their lives. When the kits romp together, they now play more boisterously. As yet, the instinctive bites to the throat are restrained, but as they get heavier and stronger, the play becomes more rough and painful. The yellowhammer husks the oats in its bill, deftly turning the single grain with its tongue and letting the chaff fall away on each side. It's in its element in the stubble field. A powerful beak enables it to feed on larger seeds, especially grain, which slightly smaller birds can't manage. For a pheasant in moult, this is a time of stress. A stubble field is a valuable place to feed, especially when it lies unploughed for a while. In the old days, cattle were kept outside and fed whole oat sheaves. Today, the grain is harvested for them and brought into the farmyard. 50 tons of it, all piled into a barn, making Sunnybank a great centre of attention for local wildlife. During the summer, when food is plentiful, brown rats often live out in the fields. But after harvest, many move into buildings, though they may not often find such an Aladdin's cave as this one. The rat is an alert, intelligent animal, but it does an extraordinary amount of damage. Each day it consumes 1/10 of its body weight. But the damage it does indirectly, breaking into sacks and containers and polluting foodstuffs with its droppings, is infinitely greater. A polecat, on the other hand, is no threat to the store of grain. Even as adults, polecats are very playful, and the Jill works off her high spirits on a golden ski slope of corn. The store cattle are fed concentrates and homegrown barley scattered in front of them. It's an arrangement that suits everybody. A grey squirrel deserts the treetops and comes in to join the feast. Much of a squirrel's diet consists of seeds of various kinds. They change from one sort to another according to season. But they don't often get an opportunity like this. Just occasionally, the pressure of wildlife on foodstuff becomes so great that the farmer tries to shorten the odds a little. As the farm shuts down for the night, the Jill sets out on her hunt for food. Her growing family is getting more demanding. A collared dove will make a good meal for the whole family. On the night of the shoot, they're lucky. By the time the meal's over, the first in at the feast can only watch with bloated satisfaction. The ewe bones, stripped bare by a long chain of scavengers, lie neglected on the hillside, but not completely neglected. As the year wears on, seed time follows harvest. In preparing the soil to produce food for himself, the farmer once more makes food available for others. As the soil is turned, its residents are exposed, and a rich diet of invertebrates is offered to the gulls. Farmers often say that gulls must keep scouts in the valleys. They assemble so quickly every time a plough bites into the earth. After the first frosts, the magical colors of autumn brush the treetops and creep down the mountainside. The kits by now are almost fully mature. They look very like adults. Most of this litter has survived, but 80% of polecats die without reaching their first birthday. They spend most of the day asleep. In fact, they'll be active as adults only 4 hours out of the 24, at dawn and at dusk, which is why they're remembered in a local phrase, as lazy as a polecat. But the family is breaking up. Autumn is the season for dispersal. For some time now, the juveniles have been making short trips alone, returning to the security of the farm to rejoin their family. But this evening, as the light fades from the sky, a young polecat sets off, alone, to find her way in the wild. Sunnybank still holds memories of warmth and companionship, but they lose out to a stronger urge. This kit has become a polecat. And polecats are solitary animals. Perhaps next year she'll have her own family. Until then, she must live her life alone.